But first, before all of that, breaking news of the morning. Peace is coming to the Middle East as President Trump announces Israel and Hamas have signed off and agreed on phase 1 of this historic agreement, effectively ending the war in Gaza and bringing all of the hostages home. There are 48 hostages still held in Gaza, 20 of whom we believe are alive. All of the hostages could be released as soon as Saturday. President Trump says that he is expecting them to be home by Monday. Earlier in the show this morning, I spoke with U.S. Ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee. Watch.
There will certainly be military presence in Gaza. It will not be U.S. military, from what I understand. I don't think we have any plans to send our troops in there. But there will be an international force of troops to police the area, to begin to build up some level of security. And on the external perimeter, Israel will have control so that nobody is going to be able to overrun their borders and do what they did on October the 7th. That's never going to happen again.
The Israeli Security Cabinet set to meet today at 10 a.m. Eastern to codify this. Israeli sources say that they will remain in half of the Gaza Strip until the last hostage is released. Joining me now is California Congressman Khanna. He is a member of the House Armed Services Committee. Congressman, thanks so much for joining us this morning. Give us your reaction to this historic agreement.
Well, it's obviously very welcome news. Finally, the hostages are going to come home. The bombing, hopefully, is going to stop. Israel is going to withdraw. Everything I have read seems that this is a welcome development. And I'm really glad that after 2 years of a war, this seems to be finally coming to a resolution.
Well, it sure is. And we spoke with Mike Huckabee earlier, as you heard from that soundbite. He also said that there are broader implications, that, in fact, we could see the Abraham Accords expanded. Here's what he said about that. Watch this.
President Trump has set up for an incredible realignment of the Middle East, Maria, that we've never seen or even imagined before. Look for the Abraham Accords to expand exponentially. You could see Syria and Lebanon be some of the first partners in the next wave of Abraham Accords. These are things that if you'd have said this 5 years ago, 10 years ago, people would have laughed in your face. Today, because the strong horse, President Trump, is on the saddle, we have a chance for an unprecedented level of realignment and genuine, long-lasting peace in the Middle East.
And, of course, Congressman, President Trump calls it peace through strength. You're on the Committee for Armed Services. I want to get your take on what you've been seeing in terms of armed services, because the deal that President Trump made with our NATO allies is for NATO allies like European countries to buy weapons from the United States and then send them to Ukraine. What can you tell us about our armed services today?
Well, we are in a strong position, but we do need to make sure that we're keeping up with China on shipbuilding. I know that's a bipartisan issue. We need to make sure we're keeping our naval superiority in the Pacific. And in terms of NATO, we need to make sure, obviously, that they're spending on their defense, but that we keep our commitment to Ukraine. And there's a bipartisan consensus in the House, and especially on the House Armed Services Committee, that whether it's through Europe or directly, we need to make sure that Ukraine has the capability they need to defend themselves against the Russians.
And unfortunately, we are entering day 9 of a government shutdown in the middle of all of this. And I want to get your take on what you think your colleagues are thinking now that President Trump has surged forward with this peace deal. It seems, I don't know, it seems like small potatoes when you think about what you're fighting about, knowing that you can negotiate on these health care benefits throughout the rest of the couple of months until year end, and yet President Trump is doing this peace deal in the Middle East. Do you think the news of the day might move some of your colleagues to work with Republicans to reopen this government?
Well, Maria, as you know, all politics is local and domestic. Jimmy Carter realized that when he thought that the Middle East peace deal would have carried him to re-election. So the issue here is that Americans' premiums are going to double if we don't get the tax credits extended. One thing, Maria, and people say this is really not a partisan point. I don't understand why we can't have an exception to the filibuster to keep government open. If you can have an exception to the filibuster to confirm Trump's appointees and his judges, right now there are 51 Republican senators. There's a majority in the House. He is the president. Let's just keep the government open. They have the votes. Now, if they want Democratic votes, they need to extend the Affordable Care Tax Credit so people's premiums don't double.
Well, I mean, they're not necessarily going to double overnight, right? I mean, you've got the new season starting November 1st, and your colleagues keep saying that you can be doing this going into year end. So you've got a little time, right? But tensions are rising on Capitol Hill once again. House Speaker Mike Johnson faced off with two Democrat senators outside of his office yesterday. And then, of course, this other heated moment that I want to show you. New York Congressman Mike Lawler confronting House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries over the Obamacare subsidies. Watch this, sir.
Don't sit here and try to lecture us about whether or not we did our job. We did our job. You did not.
Well, you're not doing your job right now.
Oh, you mean the bill that I'm signed on to extend it? Oh, yeah, cute, right. Because you know what? We actually have put forth legislation to do it. You guys just keep pontificating.
You're holding the American people hostage because you want to have a policy debate.
Yes,
we have policy debates here every day.
There's no policy debate when nobody's there. You're talking to yourself.
Hello, I'm here.
You're not going to talk. You're not going to talk to me.
Wasted.
You're not going to talk to me and talk over me.
Non-New York residents
because you don't want to hear what I have to say.
Oh, I'm listening.
So why don't you just keep your mouth shut?
Oh, boy, that's embarrassing. Congressman, your reaction?
Well, look, there are two issues. I like the civil way we debate and discuss things, Maria. That's more my style. But look, there are two issues. One is the Epstein files. Thomas Massie and I have a bipartisan discharge petition. I give a lot of credit to Marjorie Taylor Greene, to Nancy Mace, and to Lauren Boebert. They've signed it. We're at 217 signatures. Adelita Grijalva has won her race. She won it 2 weeks ago, 70-30. And we should just swear her in, get the 218 signature, have a vote on the release of the files. Frankly, Trump could take credit for it when the files are released. He's the one who campaigned on it. The second issue is on the shutdown, and the Democrats believe that when we had a permanent extension of the tax credit, much of it, which in my view helped corporations and the wealthy, we should have a permanent extension on the tax credit for health care. But we need to find a way to have more conversations like we're having here, listen to each other, debate, and then try to come to some common ground as Americans.
Well, you know, it's interesting because you are talking about just having the vote, moving things forward, and yet Senate Democrats have been stopping or sitting on some of the president's nominees, right? I mean, look, the Republicans just confirmed more than 100 Trump nominees despite this shutdown. They say Democrats are blocking the Republicans' bid to reopen the government for a sixth time yesterday. You've got another vote expected today. And even colleagues of yours on the Democrat side are questioning whether or not this is the right move to keep the government closed like this. I spoke with John Fetterman last week, and here's what he said. Watch this.
It is always, always wrong to shut our government down. That is a core responsibility. I'm always going to vote against those things. And if it's the Republican side or now it's our side, especially with the kinds of chaos that we are facing after Kirk, and now there's a Cat 5 storm that might hit our nation too. Now, and you're willing to threaten us down. I was the only Democrat voting against that. And now that CR was the same CR from the Biden administration as well too.
Right.
For me, I'm a big believer of if you want to change the policies, win elections. And that's really the way democracy works.
So, Congressman, it ended up that two Democrats voted to keep the government open and one independent. Senator John Thune says that he needs 5 Democrat votes. He's going to try again today with another vote. Do you have any confidence that maybe today we can resolve things and get government opened again?
Well, I hope so. But look, first of all, why are we not in session in the House of Representatives? Why aren't we at least voting to pay our troops? So my belief is that whenever there's a shutdown, every House member and Senate member should be in the Capitol every day, and we should be voting. It's absurd that half the Congress is on vacation. I hope the Speaker will call us back at least by Monday to start voting. The second issue is, as you pointed out, that the Senate has confirmed about 100 presidential appointees with a 51 vote. And I genuinely believe this, that, look, I'm against the filibuster, but why do we have a rule in this country, a norm, not in the Constitution, that you need 60 senators just to keep the government open? Just have an exception where 51 senators can keep the government open, and that will prevent shutdowns whether we have a Republican or Democratic president. I really hope Senate Majority Leader Thune considers that. I've been consistent on this. I said this when Biden was president, and I'm now saying it when Trump's president.
Do you expect that if they were to pass a clean CR, which that's also a question, do you expect that the Democrats are going to push back again in November and shut the government down again in November?
Well, Maria, first of all, just respectfully, I think that the Senate is in the Republicans' hands. Democrats don't have the House. The presidency is Trump. The country just doesn't believe that the Democrats have power in Washington. So I think the question is, if they want Democratic votes, will they extend the health care premiums? Now, you have Marjorie Taylor Greene actually saying that health care costs are extraordinary and we should extend the Affordable Care subsidies. I've reached out to her, actually, to see if we could have some bipartisan legislation on cost of living. But I really hope we get this deal done where Americans' premiums don't go up, and then we can open the government.
I mean, is there any expectation to ever getting back to pre-COVID spending?
Well, look, spending has come down dramatically. My view is that we have more of a revenue problem. Revenue is at around 17% of GDP. But you have a Republican-passed budget that's going to explode deficits to 8%. 8% of GDP. We've never had that in peacetime. I've put a proposal to lower our deficit by $12 trillion. It's more taxes on the billionaires in my district. So it's taxing the wealthy and taxing corporations more. And it's some of the spending cuts. But I think we need to do both to have fiscal prudence in this country.
What about the $7 trillion spent under Joe Biden's presidency?
Well, look, some of that was both Biden and Trump out of COVID. And I know we made mistakes. We weren't perfect. But we had the best response economically, collectively, of almost any Western nation in the world.
No, I'm talking just when Joe Biden was president, under Joe Biden's president. Trump wasn't part of that.
No, but he had $2.3 trillion of CARES Act. I mean, you got to look at the extraordinary spending he had in that first term that all added to the deficit. Well, a lot of the spending for Joe Biden was the American Rescue Plan that I think was needed as a COVID response. But you also had the bipartisan infrastructure bill to have construction jobs.
Isn't
you
that
had
the
700,000 men.
That spending was for an emergency, right? I mean, and this is what the Republicans are saying. The spending that you just referred to was for an emergency, COVID, and we're out of the emergency. And your colleagues are saying we can't go back to what we issued during an emergency, and we want to eventually get back to COVID, pre-COVID spending. So I'm just trying to understand what is going to be the action item here that gets you all back to the table, not the House, but the Senate, to actually reopen this government. At this point, markets don't care. I mean, we've been seeing record after record. But at some point, this is going to matter when the military doesn't get their paycheck on October 15th and federal employees miss a paycheck on October 20th. And I just spoke with a Wall Street guy yesterday, and he said, look, I've got a big IPO I want to take public. We can't. The Securities and Exchange Commission is closed. We can't make the filing. So at some point, could be in the next couple of days, could be in a week, this could really turn ugly.
I agree, Maria. That's why I hope that on Monday we can come in and at least vote to pay our troops. I mean, that should be bipartisan. I'd vote tomorrow, today, for that. And I don't understand. Every other shutdown I've been in, we come in, we vote to pay the military, we will vote for back pay for federal workers at airports, at parks. We need to do that. And then we need to have serious conversations about extending the Affordable Care Act premiums so people have money on the exchange. Now, Lawler comes in and he says, well, I've got a bill for 1 year. He doesn't have his own leadership on that bill. So it's not a serious proposal until you get his own leadership saying, yeah, we want to work on extending the premiums for the Affordable Care Act.
All right, Congressman, we'll be watching all of this. We so appreciate your time this morning, sir. Thank you. California Congressman Khanna. Thank you, sir. We'll be right back. Stay with us.